talk about wealth of knowledge. You bring it all together.
Put the work in now to get yourself structured and organized and documented.
We need to grow this top line.
There is no one size fits all for this industry.
Hello there. Thanks for checking out a fresh episode of the Restoration Masterclass. I always want to say Restoration Today podcast, but we are doing a masterclass episode today on strategic growth. I am joined by Andy Zavodney, who is the CEO of Kustom US. And Kustom has grown very intentionally and very strategically over time. So I wanted to bring Andy in to talk about what it looks like to strategically grow and how that relates back into this whole profitability topic that this entire masterclass is talking about. So Andy, thank you very much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you back on the podcast. So share a little bit about yourself and the background of Kustom.
Great. Michelle, thanks for letting me join today. I really enjoy these podcasts and, helping to help guide the industry here a little bit. So I began my career at Kustom after college as a building trades apprentice and worked in the field and worked my way through the organization, eventually bought the company in 2000. Company's kind of grown from a Akron, Ohio industrial contracting company, about 900,000 in revenue to today. We're forecast to do about 200 million in revenue for 23. And of course, we're in this national property restoration business.
Yes.
The company's proudly the only non-PE consolidator in the restoration industry today. And obviously that can change. So, and the other important thing to note is Kustom is no longer a family business, but we are an organization owned by about 25 employee shareholders now. So we've really brought the key, employees into the cap table. We think it's pretty important.
Okay. So let's talk about the M&A space in general. This has been a huge topic in the industry over the last 2 to 3 years, and it's not slowing down. There's new mergers and acquisitions continuing to happen. So what kind of shift have you seen in the industry over the last few years as it relates to M&A and consolidation, and kind of what do you see in the near future?
Well, private equity and M&A has been prevalent in the restoration space. And I would say COVID, you may disagree, COVID kind of was a strong catalyst to really drive institutional investors into our space. So yeah. I think that's the biggest shift that I've seen in the past few years.
So talk about Kustom's specific strategy. That's really what we're here to talk about, is how strategic and intentional you are about the growth that you have gone through. So talk about what it looks like to be intentional as somebody who's looking to acquire restoration companies. I know you're not just going out and buying anybody that might be for sale. It's about more than just the numbers that are in the book. So share a little bit about that.
So I would tell you the M&A process for Kustom is slow, very deliberate, and truly focused on the people. And if I break it down for you, the majority of our transactions have followed a 2+ year courtship. I know, Aaron and the 5-star team pretty well. That was a 29-month courtship. And it seems like a very long time when you sit and you talk about it in this context, but I would tell you that the time goes very quick and the benefits far outweigh that small investment in time, because it's really the people that are the beneficiaries of running a great process or, the victims of a failed process. And, just giving you some quick stats, I've done well over 150 meetings in North America and Europe. We've completed 10 transactions. And I would tell you, we have deliberately torn up, I think, 4 LOIs that were well underway in due diligence because, whether it be a, member of the management team or somebody in our hierarchy, including the board, that, was able to determine that there wasn't a cultural alignment with a prospective seller. So, we are really focused on cultural alignment.
Okay, so how has this purposeful and strategic growth tied right into the overall profitability of Kustom and your ability to have solid margins and grow overall in the profitability space?
Yeah, I think that, our thesis, right, is paramount to profitability. And the biggest difference between what we're doing and, for example, the private equity investors, right? It's time. We have the luxury of taking time to take 2 years or 29 months in the case of Aaron and his great team to get acquainted. Private equity guys, they're under the clock, and it's a different business model. They get a buy, build, sell, and return. They get to return dollars to limited partners. So it's, one is not a better strategy than another. They're two different strategies that serve two different masters, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. How have you found that culture fits into this? You've talked about culture a little bit and making sure that companies align, but how does that loop into profitability?
It's absolutely, without culture, right? A business cannot be profitable and it won't be scalable. It's absolutely, for us, it's a gating issue. I've led 150 meetings. We've done 10 transactions. Could we have done more? Absolutely. But it's making sure that there's cultural alignment before we even look at financials. And I've had numerous meetings with potential sellers, and they're like, do you want to know about, or do you want to see our financials? I was like, no, Michelle, I just want to meet you. I want to learn about you and who you are and what's important to you. I want to know about your family, your kids, and I want to know what drives you and what's important to you. Because if we can't get past that, then there's not a business relationship. There can be a friendship, of course.
What are some of those like early red flags that you saw in some of those 150 conversations where it's like, no, that's probably just not going to align?
People that are hyper focused on exiting the business, right? If people want to sell and exit, it's just not a fit for us. Okay. It is absolutely not a fit. We we want to partner with entrepreneurs that truly want to grow, and people that want to that see value in what we're doing and the culture and the longevity, right? It's twofold for me. Near term, the strategy, the thesis has to serve the people. And for me, right, every decision that I make, I want to make sure the company is around in 2068 to celebrate its centennial. And if we do that, then we've succeeded, and it can be done.
What are some things that happen within Kustom now that you've done a number of transactions, have a number of locations and companies that have come under the Kustom umbrella? What are some ways that you're making sure that those locations are cohesive? I know maybe it's not the same exact culture from place to place because there's different leadership teams, but it's the same Kustom feel, right? So how are you streamlining?
Well, that's a great question. And I would tell you that the biggest thing that we do in investment in time is our semi-annual leadership summits. We get people together in May, and in November of each year, we do an offsite. This May, we're going to be taking our team to Carmel Valley Ranch in California, and we're going to dig in for a week, and we're going to spend time together. We're going to do social stuff. We're going to do business stuff. We're going to share practices, and it's our operating team all the way through our board. And in the interest of radical transparency, I didn't want information to filter through me to the board, or from the board to operations through me. So we've got one version of the truth. And I would tell you the other really interesting aspect of our leadership summits is we invite potential sellers to come and to meet our board and to meet former sellers. So again, in the interest of radical transparency in building a business that's sustainable and scalable long term, we want them to come and meet other sellers, and we want them to hear from them, not for me, what the experience of partnering with Kustom has been like.
Perfect. I love that term of radical transparency. I like that. That's a great term. Okay. Anything else you want to add on this strategic growth, profitability, any of that?
Absolutely. I'd like to offer some advice to business owners that have likely one opportunity to sell their business, their life's work, right? Mm-hmm. And prior to entering into a contract with a broker, potential buyer, to sit down with your spouse, your significant other, and write down your objectives. What do you want to achieve in connection with this transaction? For example, I want to sell and retire, in which case, a private equity solution would serve them very well. It may not serve their employees long term, but it's their business. They have the right to do with it whatever they want. Or I want to sell, partner, and grow, in which case a partnership with Kustom could be a good opportunity. Answering the specific questions prior to heading down the path will ensure the highest level of success for the sellers and their employees.
That is solid advice. Perfect. All right. Anything else before we wrap it up? Thank you, Andy, for your time.
Thank you for inviting me to, be a part of this today. I really appreciate everything that you've done for the industry, Michelle, and you've been a loud voice and very objective.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Andy, a lot. I look forward to seeing you at probably some industry events in the next few months. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.